makes me anxious, but that's okay. All right, we are
I'm
live.
in motion.
All right, well, now there you go. Poetry in motion. All right, everybody, we're coming up. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's talk about the Chicago ICE raids and the anticipated raids that are coming to cities all across the country: Memphis, Los Angeles. Where else will they go? Some of everywhere. And what is all of this going to mean? What happened in Chicago around 1 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday? On Tuesday, what happened? Well, we do know that 4 American children were caught up in this. We do know that there were children and adults naked on the street, Ronnie and Patrice, and in zip ties at 1 o'clock in the morning. Um, we do know that children and parents were separated. And as they were hauled off, the children were left right there. We do know that people have returned to their homes, to their apartments, and the apartments have been destroyed. Think about that, everybody. Think about that. We've got attorney Linda Bernard, police commissioner up in Detroit, Michigan, brilliant lawyer. Ronnie Patrice, of course, political organizer of tremendous note, Democratic organizer, Palestinian American activist. Uh, and we've got our doctor here. Watch what you say, everybody. She is a psychologist, a community psychologist, and we're being judged. Judge me, judge me. And then, of course, Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch from, well, now I see him somewhere in the driving through Chicago. But of course, we've got to talk about what we're looking at right now. We've got to talk about this. I think I have you up here twice, Linda, and I'm going to get that straight because I need to. There you go. There you go. Get you removed here. So let me start with you, Ronnie and Patrice. Um, what did you make of these ICE raids? You know, this happened in the middle of the black community. And I think that was what was stunning. And they got Mexicans, they got Venezuelans, they got Nigerians. So this dragnet is catching brown and black people, right? Not that one should have taken comfort if only one group is targeted, because ultimately that's you too. But what do you make of it and how it was done? They said it was military style. That's how Time magazine has characterized it.
Yeah, my understanding is that they came down from a helicopter. It was like a
Black Hawk helicopter.
helicopter thing. Sorry. Just there are no words. I mean, it's fascism unfolding before our eyes. It's unfolded. Why am I saying unfolding? It's here. It's happening. And I think to your point about the number of communities that are being impacted is maybe one of the most important points. And I know you and I have talked about, and I've said it here too, the great Audre Lorde saying your silence will not protect you.
Mm.
Here we are. And not to say that any one of those communities have been silent, but there is this tradition in this country of thinking like, okay, I'm going to just stay quiet and be still and just, put my head down and then I'm going to be okay. And the reality is none of us are going to be okay. And being quiet isn't going to save us or save the people that we love or our neighbors or communities. It just it's preemptively giving permission. That's what it is. We saw it with law schools. I'm sorry, law firms. We saw it with universities. We've seen this preemptive sort of capitulation, and we've also seen that it gives us nothing. It gives people nothing. Gives no protection. It just further emboldens Donald Trump and the people around him. The only thing I think that we've seen is the pushback, is all of us locking arms and coming together and pushing back. I mean, and this is just the latest atrocious example. It's like bad television, except for it's people's real lives, It's
Mhm.
these children that are being traumatized. I mean, of course, the adults too. This is a traumatizing experience, but these babies, these kids that are being zip tied and forced to sit outside for hours in the middle of the night, and I heard some of them were in their underwear and all. I mean, just all this like humiliation and dehumanization that out right in front of our eyes, and we can't be silent. We can't sit still. And frank, the Chicago community um has been showing up and been loud. I feel like, we've seen how they've shown up in Broadview too, which is part of Chicagoland.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore except for we
Well,
all have to show.
but let me ask you this, because you have been functioning in Democratic circles for quite some time now as an organizer. And to me, we're watching, there's a particular focus on Illinois, uh, Pastor Hatch, Dr. Latrice, Attorney Bernard, because we have a governor who's ambitious to run for president, right? And we see California, we see Gavin Newsom, the governor. He's ambitious to run for president. And this has almost been reduced, and we were talking about this in the last hour, to a battle of the personalities instead of a battle for the people's rights. And I'm wondering how, we've got to frame this differently. I mean, for me, this really goes beyond the partisanship, because someone as far to the right as Barry Goldwater in 1964, I saw this video just a few days ago. He was warning in an interview in 1964 about the dangers of what he saw as the growing authoritarianism of the American presidency. And I don't care how far to the right or how far to the left you are. If someone is telling the truth, they're telling the truth. you know, and it's we're watching Americans really, they're being educated less and less, and which means you don't have, we're not writing, so you don't have the, which damages your cognition. You have AI, so you're not, that we're thinking less and less. And I'm not saying that we're not smart. No, 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 no. But we are being dumbed down. And so it makes us less governable and more manageable. You manage an educated populace. Excuse me, you govern an educated populace. You manage people who you have on automatic pilot. And I'm wondering just what you see here, because I don't see any messaging from the Democrats that's inspiring to me. I'm sorry, a Twitter battle is not going to get it, Rania. It's, it's
You
not
know
going.
how I feel. You know how I
A
feel.
snap back at the president. That's just that doesn't work when I've got naked children on the streets, literally naked children, Linda, on the streets in zip ties at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's not working for me. And naked people, and then people who are barely clothed, and then people who have to return home to destroyed apartments. Who's going to restore them? Who's going to make them whole? Who's talking about that, Rania? So I mean, so just as we go into 2026, because this is where we are, and we've got a president who, and no, Ethelene, this is not more fear mongering. Um, this didn't happen to you, my sister, and I hope it never does. But Breonna Taylor, it happened to her. It could happen to anybody. And you need to understand, if it happens to one person, it can happen to you. My pastor's wife, may she rest in peace, Reverend Dr. Hatch, Mrs. Clay Evans used to say, you know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going. And it is dangerous to forget when we don't understand history. So that's not what I'm saying. And I don't scare easy. See, I'm from a fighting family. You're talking to the wrong one. I'm from people who put their lives on the line, and if someone takes it, well, I hope I'm going to be with the Lord. So I'm not worried about that. So I don't scare easy. Be clear. I'm not the girl you say that to. I'm not that one. I've had to run out of my house more than one time because somebody said they were going to blow it up. So that's not it. This is not fear mongering. This is some other people were fear was induced in them days ago. And I would hope that you would be sensitive to that when your door is broken down at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, Ronnie, what are the Democrats going to do? I mean, or what is it? I mean, what should be the appropriate response? Because to me, I think everybody should respond to this.
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, and frankly, I am a lifelong Democrat and I believe in none of our leadership. I'm just going to say it. So if we're
Hmm.
waiting on Democratic leadership to, and there's exceptions in the party, I mean, there's some fantastic local members, there's, local legislators, there's some fantastic, actually federal members of Congress too. But as far as our leadership goes, I'm not waiting for them to save us. None of us should be. That's just the bottom line. They're not coming. We've tried and tried and tried. We've knocked on their doors. We've called we've emailed. We've done all. We've begged them. We've we've been aggressive and like, where are you? They are not up for this moment. They're not. And so I want to see us finding real leadership for the Democratic Party. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer both, like, both of them got to go as far as I'm concerned. Um,
Really,
yeah.
really,
I,
why?
what you've heard. I'm going to tell the story till the day I die, but Chuck Schumer bragging about getting the name of a bill changed ain't it. Hakeem Jeffries saying, Jesus, take the wheel on Twitter. That's not what we need. I mean, that is just not what we need in this moment. And this is what we're getting from the people who are supposed to be leading this caucus. And I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, and you had Chuck Schumer not even that long ago saying, "Oh, we're not quite to a constitutional crisis yet." My God, what is it going to take? What is it going to take for it to be the crisis that we are existing in? They're always going to be okay. They're always going to be okay. And I don't judge people for being okay. I don't judge people for having comfort and all of those things. But when you are so obsessed with your own comfort that you can't see what your neighbor is going through or the people right in front of your face are going through, I just have no patience for that. I'm done. I really am. I'm
Hmm.
just done. We need fighters. We need people who are ready to step up to the plate and galvanize all of us. Bring us all together.
We need that.
We got to lock arms. And a lot of communities are. I'm not taking that away from anybody. There are people who are coming together, beautiful intersectional communities with true belief in collective liberation who are together. But when the people in power are not joining us, it's time. It's time to hang it up. It's time to find the right people.
And Ethelene, this is the last time I'm going to address you today. I appreciate the fact that you watched the show, but enough. You say you be clear that you've been on the front line for decades, and I respect that. I don't have to bow down to you or anyone. I don't ask anyone to do that. I've never done that here. That's not the spirit in which I operate, and you know better. So don't play with me, and don't play here. We're dealing with some very, very serious issues. And so don't be insulting. Now contribute to the conversation. You're a very bright woman. You have a lot to offer. Offer it. Bring it. Be on the front lines, and that's good. We need more people on the front lines for decades. I don't know you. I know other people who've been on the front lines, and that's good. We need more people. Dr. King, Reverend Jackson, and other people. Dr. Ashton shouldn't be alone. Good for you. You ought to be on the front lines because it's your life that's on the line. But let's not do that. Bow down to me for what? I don't do that. I'm not the Lord. That's it. So don't do that. And that's the last time you'll be addressed today. Now contribute, make a meaningful contribution to this conversation. You're too big for this. Don't be, you can't be big and little at the same time. Make something meaningful. Say something that makes some sense. Don't make this personal. I don't even know you. You don't know me at all. So you can go and tell people that I responded to you. No, don't do that. That's just too small. These are big issues. Some children were traumatized. It might take them a long time to get over it, and no one's going to help them. And if they will drag people out of their bed in the middle of the night, that's you too. And that ought to concern you. I don't care where you are on the ideological spectrum politically. I don't care. Everybody is in danger. Now, that should not frighten you. but it should make you aware and say, hey, wait a minute, we need to examine where we are. Every republic reaches a climax at 250 years, and that's what we will be next year. We either stay together or we collapse. That's where we are. We have to figure out who we are and where we are right now. What did Dr. King write? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Hatch. He said, "Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?" And I feel like, well, Dr. King was a prophet. It's this is where we are, and I want to I want to look at some real issues, because I know that having this raid in the middle of the night, I think it threw a lot of people off, Reverend Dr. Hatch, because no one expected this to happen in the middle of the black community, because we've been hearing about, people from South and Central America. We didn't think that they were going to raid over here, and yet and some of us have been saying, oh no, they're headed this way. So what did you make of this raid when you heard about it, Reverend Dr. Hatch?
Yeah, no, thank you. I certainly fully expected at some point the administration to turn its attention on the black community. And I suspect that this is like a trial run to that. I had been sharing with people in our congregation and beyond that when we hear crime, that means that the sights are now going to be turned on us with this private, uh, really Gestapo presidential police force that's been funded with the latest big beautiful bill that has added $75 million, $1 billion with a B, to this force, that this masked force that now is going to be unleashed into American cities, backed by the military. This is not good, and it's going to be turned toward the black community. And again, I've been saying for quite some time, uh, almost like knowing the ethos of America, that it's going to be very attractive for the narrative to be that you're going to round up these inner city African Americans and start shipping them off to the Congo, literally back to Africa. I think that's the card that this administration is holding. This is very, very dangerous. And we're no longer under a constitutional government now, because you basically have a rogue administration that does not have the respect for law and understands how slow the courts move. And so they're not going to abide by the rule of law. And we have to organize. I was I had church this morning, large numbers of people out, for obviously the spiritual nourishment, but also, for some insight as to what it is that we're looking at and what we're going to do. And
Well,
so,
well, well,
your
well, wait a minute. Let me ask you this: what did you? I mean, were people in your congregation unsettled today?
yes,
Why?
absolutely. Oh, because everybody knows that what we saw on in South Shore, that this means that the black community is now under some sort of siege and attack. We can anticipate that this is going to escalate as a trial run on destabilizing, you know, uh, the black community, in the sense that I suggested that the midterm elections and the next presidential election are not necessarily guaranteed.
Mm.
This is a march to martial law. And I've been sharing also, all of this is intentional. As the money dries up down here at the bottom of the empire, if we've had money flowing, especially, COVID relief money, that I think correlated to the decreasing crime numbers across the country, because there were resources at the grassroots. That when those resources dry up, it's going to create intentionally the kind of perfect storm for the justification of martial law. And I think people come to church to hear the truth. And that's what I try to tell them, and clergy organizing all across the city. It's the only place that has these mass public meetings every week that are not on Twitter, not live stream, but actual live bodies in a central location. And I think they're going to become very important as time goes along. We still have our churches, and we're almost back to where we were post Reconstruction. But we have to organize, and of course, pastors across Chicago, we're in constant touch with each other, organizing, exchanging information, and encouraging one another to take up our responsibilities to give people real information in those pews every Sunday.
Well, why don't you respond to William Riley? He says the people in your congregation should have been unsettled when they started dumping these criminal, illegal aliens in our community. Illinois, Chicago is $1 billion, has a $1 billion deficit because of these illegal immigrants. That's actually not true, but you have at it. Uh,
Where they were bust in from places like Texas. This is all intentional. And I think some of us are just trying to make sure we don't fall for the okey dokes of divide and conquer, as if some lady with uh, two babies on her side and one strapped on her back selling M&Ms is gonna be my enemy today. She's not gonna be my enemy. I'm not gonna fall for that. I think we know that we have now moved into an oligarchy, an authoritarian government, and I'm not going to mislead my people into thinking that somehow these people that have less than we have are somehow the enemy we need to turn our sights on. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And so it's just it's a trail that's going to lead to nowhere to talk, to start maligning these people. A
mhm.
policy we had nothing to do with, and the so-called red states exacerbated it by sending these people here. How do they get off the hook?
When they could
For the
have sent them,
three-card Molly game they're playing.
they
We
could have
we
sent
just
them
can't
right back
we can't
across.
lead the people down those rabbit holes.
Reverend Dr. Hatch, they could have, Governor Abbott could have sent people right back across the border. But no one looks at the fact that he's part of the World Economic Forum. They're bringing people in. This is so much. We're not looking at this. We talk about. I mean, I've talked about this all the time. They've been bringing people in. They relaxed the Department of Labor rules when they were rebuilding the Gulf region after Hurricane Katrina. They would not let the people who were from New Orleans and from the Gulf region stay. You remember that, Reverend Dr. Hatch. They
Sure.
shipped them off, 1.3 million people. They moved all over the country. That's why we had a march. Reverend had a march, a right of return to try and get people to get back home. No, they were sent everywhere, all over the country,
Dispersed.
dispersed, which blew a hole in black political power in the South, progressive
Absolutely.
political power in the South, which was what it was designed to do. And what they did was bring in people from South and Central America to work for next to nothing.
And that's why Chicago is a target. Chicago is what makes Illinois blue. Out of 102 counties, you could win the state with 3 counties. And so this is all intentional. It's all political machinations and theater. And it's a very, very dangerous game because we're now about a year out from the midterm elections, and then another 3 years to 2028. And of course, we're dealing with a rogue regime that has no interest in having a free and fair election. And so, I mean, we're going to have to fight. And this is what we still have our churches. That's our lane that we're in. I am very disappointed. I'm just listening to our other panelists with the fecklessness of the so-called Democratic leadership. I mean, they're just absolutely ineffective and no vision, no fight, and they don't obviously don't have any cards. And so we can't depend on that. We've got to organize at the grassroots level. And a lot of us have been talking all across the country. Obviously, your brother Youssef is doing an outstanding job with Rainbow Push, with the social justice organizations, and our relationship with congregations with those organizations. We have to fight with what we have. Organize people.
Mm. Attorney Linda Bernard,
Yes,
you are a police commissioner in Detroit.
correct.
And you help me to understand because how these raids are supposed to go. Um, because now people have, well, I told you, I mean, the reports have shown that people were roused out of bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. Children were separated from their parents. Um, some people were brought outside naked. Many were barely dressed. So it was a humiliating ritual, if you will. A Black Hawk helicopter hovered above this apartment building. Hundreds of agents, were deployed on a little more than 100 people just to get a fraction of those. How is this supposed to be done? And well, first of all, what did you make of this?
First of all, I make of it the fact that there was obviously an error in communication, and that can easily happen when a federal agency is not communicating effectively with the municipal police agency. The governor and the mayor in Chicago, the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago have made it very clear that they're not cooperating at all. So the feds are really operating on a community with 3 million people, with with no boots on the ground, if you will, to help. With respect to the people that were taken out of their homes that were Americans and that were not here illegally and not walked into the country without permission, or that are here currently now without permission, those people have a great lawsuit. You could take me out of my house in my nightgown at 1 o'clock in the morning if I know that I'm looking at a $10 million settlement in 14 months, which is what's going to happen. Everyone that was taken out improperly has a lawsuit, and they're going to make, as the kids say now, Santita, serious Benjamins as a result of it. So take me out. I got back in within 12 hours, and now I've got a big payday coming. So I'm not looking at it as horrible, horrible. It could be almost, in some respects, a blessing. Secondly, as you pointed out when you started your remarks today, you stated that your governor and, of course, the governor of California are seeking the Democratic presidential nomination.
Hmm.
So they are, excuse the expression, because I'm from Detroit, big pimping Black people and in your community and in California. They're using you to their advantage. They don't really care about you. All they care about is the headline. In terms of what you're saying about um, uh, Black America and what's going to happen with Trump, this is so foolish. I mean, I mean, this is not the boogeyman. Everything now that's happening in society, Trump's fault. None of it is our fault. Our statistics are ours, and we need to own that. And the federal government has pushed billions, billions, and billions of dollars in Detroit, Chicago, every urban city. And guess what? We're not really any further ahead. Quote, crime is reduced. What does that mean, Santita, if your niece or nephew is shot in the head with a stray bullet? What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. That it's reduced. The bottom line is that we, as Black adults in America, have failed in many respects our own community. When there was no federal money in any city in America for Black people, guess what? Black folks acted like they had some sense. They believed in the Bible. They went to church. We worked for a living. We weren't sitting waiting on checks for free. We were not, and we certainly were not embracing people who who are here illegally and think that we should pay them.
But Linda, actually, and because I want us to get back to this point, until there was an amendment in the Constitution, we were here illegally.
I
Unfortunate, no, no,
it can't
unfortunately,
go
no,
back 300
no,
years, Sandy.
no, no, no,
We're in the
no,
present.
Linda, this is not 300 years. This is a little more than 150 years ago. Reverend Jackson has made the point that we were in slavery longer than we have been free. And so there's no other group in the country who are told to go back to someplace but us, because there's always been some problem with us remaining here after the work was done. So I think we have to be very careful with that. I mean, because if we're going to go into history, let's be accurate, right? Otherwise, it's just my story, your story. We want the history. So, what do you think of what happened? Let's get back to that point, because I respect your legal expertise, and you come at this also um, coming from the world of the police, which I think is important. Before I come to our psychologist here, because um, I think it's important to hear from all of you here. So, I mean, you're saying that the people who had their homes, their apartments destroyed, even if they were renting, they would have lawsuits, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question about it. But the bottom line was that there was no communication between the feds and the local police. This doesn't just happen. As you know, even when we just use the local police and they do an illegal raid on your house, for example,
Hmm.
they have the wrong address. These kind of raids are based on bad information, whether it's your domestic police, your city police, or whether it's the feds. They had bad information. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't designed against black people. It was simply a mistake. Like many, many mistakes happen when the right hand is not talking to the left hand. That's all it was. And these people will be compensated. I can assure you of that. And the lawyers have already lined up to take the case. I
Mm.
wouldn't be surprised if Big Trump wasn't there tomorrow. But there's
Well,
nobody dead. There's nobody hurt. There's just this was a
well, no,
temporary.
someone actually was killed here the other week, um, because he was frightened by ICE, because they are masked.
So are Chicago police. Whenever
No,
they do a drug raid,
no, no,
Chicago police, Detroit
yeah,
police, every police department in
but
the country
we're,
uses
we're,
masks when they
yeah,
do a
but
raid.
thankfully they have decided that that's not going to work, because the police are different than ICE. So let's.
They're all law enforcement. They all have a badge and they all
Yeah,
have the
but
right to shoot and
yeah,
kill.
but law enforcement, police are taught, are trained. You know this better than I, to de-escalate. They interact with the community in ways that ICE do not every day. So no, stay right there. I want to. Oh, Chaparral has entered the studio, but let me go to the psychologist. Let me go to you, um, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, because Reverend Dr. Hatch spoke to the the trauma that the black
I
community
agree.
is feeling,
I agree.
because this happened in the heart of the community, as you well know. And so it wasn't just that apartment building, it was the block. Because black hawk black hawk helicopters are not quiet. So
No,
everybody, I remember my parents moved into a neighborhood that is Howard University. And when they moved in, it was a neighborhood that was struggling. Now, of course, it is a really fabulous neighborhood. But my parents' point in moving there was to move into a black community and help people who had been renting, to try and help them become homeowners, and to keep the neighborhood with those who had been living there. And let's find ways to make it beautiful. Because my parents' first home was in a housing project in Greensboro when I was a newborn. And so my mother said, I planted flowers, and my mother sews. So she said I made curtains, and we just, I made the best of what we had, right? So it wasn't just that building, it's the whole community. And now, we kind of joke about South Side, West Side in Chicago. Well, it was just one side by the time everybody got up Tuesday morning.
Mm.
Because you knew, wait a minute, what happened here? Oh my goodness. And if they're going to do that in South Shore, they're going to do that. They're going to do that everywhere. So what about the the trauma felt by the community? Or do you think the community did not feel anything?
Oh no, hi you all. Thank you so much, Santita, for having me. The community is feeling the pain 100-fold. It is so much fear, anxiety, trauma going around. And like you said, it's from the south side to the west side to, if you think about it, right now, I got a call yesterday from one of the community leaders who is not south where I am. And they said, hey, the building in South Shore, that pastor needs help. He needs some support. And he said, can I give you information? I said, I don't care. You can give my information. But what is happening, there are a group of people who are afraid to go out and stand up because they are seeing what is happening right before their eyes. So if you think about it, guys, there is a group of people that we do the same thing. So it's like we travel in the same circles. So many of us know each other. It doesn't matter if you're on the west side, south suburbs, north suburbs. At some point we've all crossed paths, but it's not that many of us, for real, for real. That's why when you look at what's happening in Broadview, the amount of people that are out there that we can see, that's not a lot compared to what they're faced against. Even when you think about the amount of people that you saw in South Shore, there are not a lot of people that are out there trying to go against. Now, when the lady was shot, that made a lot of more community people come out. But that in proximity to the amount of guards or agents that they have, it's not a lot because those guys are carrying huge weapons. They have this very aggressive demeanor, and they're making the point to say, we'll do anything we have to do to get our point across. And they've said that on the news, they've said that in the people's faces. They don't care what they have to do to stress the point of they're in control. So this control factor is designed to put out as much fear as possible. The thing is, I'm expecting the reaction from the public to be greater. And my philosophy is, as much trauma is being put in our communities, there has to be equal reaction to it in order for them to really understand how people feel threatened, because now there's a group of people that's just not coming out their houses. And with that being said, that's affecting everything. That's affecting school, work, community functions, how children move around, how elderly move around. And so these things are being done intentionally. And I just don't know how you could look outside your door, look at the news and not be impacted by it. So there is a lot of trauma being put out there, and it's done intentionally. And I think it's being exacerbated by the heightened things like shooting somebody in the middle of the street because they wouldn't move, and then telling everybody, oh, she was armed and she was bumping the car, whatever the case was. Come on now, equal force. What are we talking about? This
A car is a
excessive
deadly
force is
weapon.
ridiculous.
A
I'm
car
sorry.
is a car is a deadly weapon.
Yeah, but the lady that was shot wasn't in a car. But I'm just making a statement to say that you taking these very isolated situations, like the people that they wrestle down to the ground and tear gas, those people don't have any weapons in their hands. They're just using their voices. So at some point, they
They
don't
are
want to be spoken to. They don't want to be spoken to. And see, we as people who exercise our right to speak and to protest, we are used to being in a position where we can exercise our voices and not be punished physically for that. That's not what is happening out there. I mean, it's really bad. And to be honest, if enough people don't come out, Santita, it's going to get 10 times worse. It's not going to get better at all.
Chaparral. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. Before I bring on
just
Chaparral.
real quickly,
Mhm.
unless what I'm seeing on TV is not accurate. They were at a ICE facility. They weren't at their home or in their neighborhood or anything like that. They are protesting at an ICE facility in the driveway and so forth where the cars come and go. There's already been a shooting at an ICE facility, so we already know that the federal government is on alert. One person killed, two people badly injured, and an ICE agent has been killed. So the people that are protesting, and one of the people they arrested there in Chicago had an automatic weapon on the seat. So let's get real about this. If you're a federal agent, if you're a cop, and you feel that this is a threatening situation, then you move people back. What they were trying to do was move people back from the driveways so they could be easy ingress egress to a federal facility. People didn't want to move, so they launched the tear gas and all that kind of stuff, like they always do. This is not improper or unusual. If you can't get out of your driveway,
So I got you. I'm not talking about that situation. I'm
oh,
talking about a situation where there were protesters in the street and a person was shot because they didn't move 3 times. They didn't have a weapon. They
I
didn't
What?
have.
have.
I'm not.
So I'm just saying, and they weren't at the
What?
ICE facility either. So
What?
there are
Just so
different
that you
things
know,
happening simultaneously here in
and they're
Chicago.
happening all over the city.
Yeah, they're all over.
Okay.
They're happening all over the city, and we have a history in Chicago, in particular, of with protest and with protesters being handled with less than care. And we have that history in the country. We have that history all around the world. And I think that we have to be very, very, very careful. Let me bring up Chaparral and bring her in. Chaparral, what's on your mind?
Yes, thank you so much, Santita, for allowing me to be on today. Listen, Linda, I wanted to tell you that first. I want to tell you that in Chicago, 9 times out of 10, the police narrative is not the truth. Whether it be ICE, CPD, FBI, SWAT, whoever you want to say, it's not the truth. And what we have discovered, what LaShawn was talking about, was that this woman was not armed. And what we understand is that when we looked at the video for Severio, the one who was killed by ICE, we know that they rolled up on him, and so he was backing back instead. But the narrative is that he ran over the police. That is not what happened when we saw the video. The video shows that he was backing out, trying to flee. He didn't know who was coming for him because remember, these people are in unmarked cars, regular SUVs, or pickup trucks. That's what they don't have any identifying marks on them. They're not always in ICE attire or HSI attire. They're in regular civilian clothes. So when you have fear being put into you about carjackings and everything like that, you don't know who rolling up. So he did what your natural instinct, I'm talking about Severio, who was killed, he did what his natural instincts would be, which is to back and try to take off and save his life. And they end up shooting him. And then the narrative came out is that the officer was injured when he only had a skinned knee. And he didn't even know his partner when he shot, when his partner unloaded the gun on Severio, he did not even know his partner was on the ground. He basically shot him when he saw him pulling back and leaving the scene. Okay, so when that's what the advocates that are out here, uh, marching and protesting, is because our rights are being infringed upon. We are not given the opportunity to identify that we are U.S. citizens, and we're being taken in custody. We're being, accosted in the middle of the night. These are all violations of the U.S. Constitution. We are not given due diligence in regards to our rights. We're not being even Mirandaized about our rights. So they said the narrative with the South Shore raid is that they were trying to get the Venezuelan gangs. Well, then why was they taking black people? We ain't Venezuela. Why are they taking it? So this narrative that the FBI and ICE are putting out are pure lies. And the reason why I joined today, Santita, is because I got out of church at 11:30 today, Santita, and before I knew it, all we saw was ICE people strolling down Central and Sarmac, armed military police on our streets, going black door to door, trying to see who they could snatch up. Our area in Cicero Berwyn is under siege
Well,
24/7.
hold on, Reverend Dr. Hatch. I want you to speak to that because Reverend Dr. Hatch has a congregation and a following of thousands of people, and he's a leader in our community. And if he, as you stated, and you're saying this too, Doctor Latrice, that people came into church today, probably even more than usual, because now they're not unsettled, they're frightened. Because we do have Breonna Taylor, right? And we've had a lot of Breonna Taylors. We had a woman who didn't die, but she was not dressed. She was naked in her place while the police just stood there. You remember that just a few years ago. It was horrible. So
Absolutely.
we have a history of being mistreated in our home. This got me looking sideways. Like, wait a
It's
minute.
true.
Like what is going on here? Not that and I guess I am guilty of this because sometimes you feel a little safer. Not that not that it can't happen to you, but well, okay, it hasn't come over here because this is a black area. But guess what? 20% of the migrants in Chicago are black. And not that that should be the only thing that concerns you, because if it's only brown people who are being treated this way, Dr. Hatch, that's enough for me. Because I know ultimately, if you do it to someone, you're going to do it to me. And even if you don't do it to me, it's just wrong. You don't treat people this way, Reverend Dr. Hatch.
No, that was interesting because I made that point and I was really amazed at the congregation's response spontaneously, with the support for understanding that if we sit back and allow other people to be abused, then obviously it's going to happen to us. And as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I think, but we know intuitively because really home invasions on the part of law enforcement, no knock, has been a part of the way we have been policed. I mean, until I actually saw it up close, where it happened to a couple of parishioners of mine, I just didn't even think it was possible, legal, for somebody to actually come up in where you live, and ransack your house. And so it is something that we've lived under, tragically. I mean, it absolutely just it's devastating on the psychic, when the sanctity of your home is violated. And so I've known people that have never recovered from this happening to them. But this is different,
How so?
uh, you know, because you don't really have the relief of law. We're not, we're no longer living under a constitutional republic where we have rights that are going to be respected. I think the regime, the administration realizes that the courts, if they move at all, are going to move very slowly. The Supreme Court has been captured. The Department of Justice has been captured. And so we simply cannot expect the kind of relief from the courts that we have grown accustomed to in the last generation and a half or so. And so I think people know that we're really left very, very vulnerable. And one of the messages that we've had today is we're going to have to build community. We're going to have to let people know where our whereabouts are. We're going to have to learn how to love each other, band together. I think these congregations are going to be increasingly important because you have people who know you, uh, who know where you should be, just in case you literally get snatched off the street and be shipped off to a foreign government somewhere and detained. That at least you have a community that is looking for you, and people like me and others who may be resourced to go and try to find you personally, That's the kind of fear that our community is under, and I think justifiably so, because I think all of this is a trial run for increasing authoritarian government, of which our community is going to be particularly vulnerable. And so we're on the west side. We're next to Berwyn, Cicero. We have members that live in Berwyn, and Cicero. And of course, that's one of the places where there's a large, Spanish speaking population, people who come from South and Central America. And I imagine that's, targeted. But I think that all of us in the Black community know that when the narrative becomes a focus on crime, that's going to mean our community is going to be the target of intense focus of these now, militarized armies on our streets that are literally snatching people off without regard to people's constitutional rights.
I want to get some closing thoughts. I've got to run into my next segment, but I can hear the passion. Chaparral uh, tragically lost a son who the police said that they couldn't. Well, first of all, the poor child bled out. They put him in handcuffs. Reverend Dr. Hatch took him to the hospital, and he was begging for his life, and they wouldn't help him, and he died. So when you hear her passion, some people have said that she is traumatized. Sure, she is. But I think that, deep down in all of our DNA is a lot of trauma. And, I just hope that we will grow up in our politics and just grow up, because there's a way that you treat people and there's a way that you don't treat people, you know. And just as someone who really seeks to be Christian, no one in the world is illegal. Some people are unwelcome. And if we're going to talk about folks who came here illegally, let's talk about the people who were brought here illegally, or who've been pulled here, as we're trying to Chevron and other companies that are in Venezuela trying to get a better deal on their oil, because once they got progressive leadership, they couldn't just take the oil. Everybody. That's why you've got so many of the Venezuelans here. And Shapiro, you do look Venezuelan. We all do. More black people were sent to South and Central America than were brought to the United States. They look like everybody. They're white, they're black, they're brown, they're yellow, they're red. And they're actually indigenous people, but there it is. So, everybody, let's think about this. I want to get about 30 seconds literally from everybody. I got to let the preacher close us out, because they know how to do this. And we need that word right now. So let me start with you, Dr. LaShawn Latrice. What should we be thinking of? What do you want us to know?
I just want to close by saying that right now we just need to be more sensitive to what's going on, even if it's not right at our doorsteps. Let's keep our eyes and our hearts with the people who need people to support them, and let's not wait till an event happens that directly impacts us. Let's go out here and stand with people in a proactive manner so we can make sure that our neighbors, our communities are protected, and that people understand if there's not anybody speaking up for us, we have to fight for ourselves. That's it. That's all. God bless.
Okay. Excuse me. I'm going to go to you, Shapiro.
Yes, Santita, it's real quick. I just want to let everyone know that we still need help out here in these streets. If you want to volunteer a few hours for the Berwyn Cicero Rapid Response Team, please follow us on Facebook, so that way we can get help out to these migrants. We basically are reporting any type of ICE sightings, as well as also those who are at the Berwyn Black site who are protesting. We are also donating water, sandwiches, chips, and everything. So please reach out to us, Berwyn Cicero Rapid Response Team, and we would appreciate the support. Thank you.
Attorney Linda Bernard.
Just quickly, based on everything that I've been reading and seeing, I guess the military, the National Guard is coming, who are like weekend soldiers. They're not like real soldiers, but anyway, they're coming to Chicago. I think that will bring some relief to people who have feel victimized by what's been happening in Chicago for the last couple of years. I think there will be more order in Chicago like there is in Washington, D.C. right now. It's been a positive experience for Washington, D.C. At least it appears that way from a criminal justice standpoint. And that's going to happen in Chicago. I have never personally, maybe because my family's military, I've never been afraid of a person in the United States military uniform. Never in my life. Um, from their sand-colored boots to their fatigues, all that stuff that they wear, I feel safer when I see them. I feel less safe when I see people with their pants hanging off their behind and walking around and acting like thugs and acting like crazy people.
Well, what? No,
I never feel bad with the military.
yeah,
So
but
I
I
urge
just,
your community.
but all of us are not doing that. I mean, this is
I know
for
that.
no, but I'm just saying, what if I just see you walking down the street? I don't need to see someone who's armed up, gadded up behind you.
It doesn't. No, they're, what they really have on are bulletproof. They have on the
No,
same
no. But
gear
what I'm
that
saying
police
is,
officers have.
you continue to pivot to our to these young people, and it's not just because it's not just these young black kids and brown kids who are just like that. The biggest criminals are on Wall Street. They're the one.
I know that.
No. But I'm just
But I'm
saying.
not afraid of them. I don't fear that my
You
kid is
should
going to get shot or I'm going to get shot.
because they're the ones who won't allow you to buy a house
Well, I agree.
and
I
they're
understand that.
manipulating the whole system.
I'm not talking
So
about economic discrimination. I'm
yeah,
talking about
no, but I mean,
blood and guts.
I'm hearing you, but blood and guts. We have a lot. Most crime in America, 80+% of white people are killed by white people. 90+% of black people are killed by black people. Crime in and of itself is interracial. If you just read the Daily Mail, you see crazy stuff that happens all over town,
That's
and
true.
no one talks about that. We don't pathologize white people; we pathologize black people, and I am tired of that. And because it makes us less safe. And
You're
that to
not
me
safe
is
now. Ask your community.
no. I
You're
mean,
safe.
no, I don't need that. I know that crime went down in Chicago as Brandon Johnson opened up mental health clinics, as he gave our children jobs this summer. We saw a precipitous drop in crime. They have been lying, like they've been lying about these people who are not citizens getting health care. That's a lie. If you don't believe it, I spoke with a congressman this morning, Jonathan Jackson, and Robin Kelly, and others. I
The,
said that it is not. You can't. That ain't true.
the health
So
care for
I,
illegals is coming from the
no,
reimbursement
no,
that the
no, no, no,
hospitals are
no. The
getting from the
thing, and
states,
as
not
my brother,
direct.
said this morning, if you don't have enough love in your heart to take care of someone who's brought into the emergency room who needs care, then God bless us all. Shame on us. Shame on us. Have you heard of the Good Samaritan? Did anyone learn anything in Sunday school? You're supposed to be
The
able to
bottom
help
line
somebody.
is we're
Wait a minute.
still paying for it.
No, I
That's
got
the
you.
point.
No, I don't. I don't mind paying if it's gonna make you well.
Actually, you
Okay.
do when you
No,
look at
no,
your
no,
budget.
no, 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 no. I'm speaking
We're
for myself.
spending
No, no,
almost
no.
a half
Wait a
a
minute.
trillion dollars a
No,
week
no, no,
in
no, 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 no,
interest
no.
on the
The
debt.
biggest, the biggest expenditure that I've got is a bottomless military budget, and that does
No,
not
it
pay.
isn't.
No, no. Wait a minute.
Military
Stop. No, no.
is
Stop.
less
Stop.
than a
Stop.
trillion
Stop.
dollars.
Stop. Stop. That does
It's
not
less than a
pay.
trillion
That
dollars.
does not pay. That's on. That's on. That's reported. They have a multi-trillion-dollar budget. What they don't do is pay enlistees. That's why you have payday loan centers on the edges of most bases, because they are poor. They are broke. And that's a shame. So if you want to love the troops, love them before they become veterans and pay them, which is what we do not do.
We
I'm
all
from
have a duty to manage our own
I know, no,
resources.
I'm from a military family too, but I also do not want any more wars. So there's that part. Reverend Dr. Hatch, your closing thought?
That's where the money goes. It goes to war, and it goes to support the empire all over the world,
It does not.
and to pay other countries. I mean, the migrant crisis is precipitated by corporate America. They're here because they want them here in order to lower the cost of labor. And so we simply can't, you know, let people okey doke us into who the enemy is when it comes to, the plight that has been created. I am very concerned that the spigot is being cut off, and what that's going to mean in communities like mine when there is less money available. And that is being intentionally designed by the powers that be now. And everybody knows that there's a correlation between crime and limited resources. We
Wait a
are
minute.
being set up.
That was
Reverend Dr. Hatch, and that's in wealthy areas, that's in middle class areas, that's in poor areas. When people's money gets messed up, all kinds of things happen. You saw one of the wealthiest lawyers in the country in North Carolina who killed his wife and his son, I think, looking for insurance money. So let us, crime for money is not confined to the poor. It is every.
No,
You got a whole lot. You got a lot of sickness out here now. Either we're gonna get well or we're gonna stay sick. I love you. So I gotta
yes.
run. I got someone in the next hour. We're gonna talk with Tanya Woods from the West Side Justice Center. God bless you. About what your rights are. If you are pulled over, what do you do?
you do
Okay.
nothing.
Well,
You don't
if you
consent to a search. I can tell you what you do as a
no,
lawyer.
no, let me
Don't
let me
consent
tell
to a search.
no, let me tell you. Hold on, because I got to go to the next one. We'll do this. That's another conversation for another time. You know, I love you, Linda. I
I
love
love you
all of
too.
y'all. But I gotta, and she's my girl. She know she and I go. We go at it, and yeah, she is. She is MAGA. I don't care. She's
I'm
my
not
girl.
MAGA.
No, no. Wait a minute. Let me tell you. Everybody calls you MAGA, and your politics sound very much like it. But that's all right with me. Let me
Not
tell you
even
something.
remotely.
Let me tell you something.
I'm a
She is all,
realist.
she is all right with me because I love Linda and I think she loves our people.
I love
And
you.
she's been very active in push and the civil rights movement. She just has a different point of view, y'all. And we have to make space for each other with that because everybody doesn't think the same way. Everybody does not. So let's just come on. Let's do that. Because you know what? We need all boots on the ground. She's won several cases before the Michigan State Supreme Court. This is the first Black person to get a master's in law from the University of Pennsylvania School of Law. I'd rather have her on my team than not. We need her. And that's it. We need Chaparral. We need Reverend Dr. Hatch. We need Dr. LaShawn Latrice. We all need each other. Now let's find ways to include everybody. I need you, Max. I need Snowman. I need Ethelene. I need everybody. I need everybody. Even if I push back on you, I need you all. Everybody. We all need each other. You need to learn that lesson. If God can have everybody in and nobody out, then what about you? You don't have the right to put anyone out. You have an obligation to figure out a way to bring everybody in. If you don't stick around and find out, keep on living. You're going to see the people you reject. The rejected stone always becomes a cornerstone, do they not, Reverend Dr. Hatch? Come on now.
Absolutely. Amen and amen.
Boom. Next hour
Amen.
coming up on the Santita Jackson Show. I love you. Santita
Amen.
Jackson Show,
All
and
right, love
950
you.
Radio.
Thank you.
I came out of the sun
Take
for
care.
you. I
I
came
love
out of
you.
the sun.
Let me
Thank
go.
you.
I
I
love
came
you.
out of the
Love
sun.
you.
Crazy Linda, I love you, girl.
Bye bye. I love you
Love
much.
you, sweetie.
Bye bye.